I will now call the April 17th budget work session to order. Ms. Beauregard.
Okay. Jesse and I have prepared a very brief PowerPoint.
Mhm.
And I think what we'll do is we're just going to walk through it and kind of stop on each slide and answer questions, have discussion. So hopefully this is going to kind of get us to a budget. That's what we would like to have happen this evening so that we can prepare an ordinance that will go in the packet tomorrow. Given that sometimes things do happen, we sometimes would have a budget work session next week before the vote, which has happened. And that is fine if we need that. But really what I would like to have this evening is a budget that we can at least get out there to have in the packet and then go from there. So I'm going to let Jesse
Okay.
start.
There are only 4 slides tonight. I will not walk you through the same slides that we've done like about 5 times. So the first one, most of these items do not have to do with the FY26 budget, but they're discussion points that I would like to talk to you about, as they would need to be on a budget amendment if you wanted to appropriate them in FY25. The first is the sale of the crossing parcels for $1,174,250. There was discussion about using 30,000 of that to fund the Arcadia contribution that is not funded in this budget. Second, there was discussion to use 35,000 for the one-time cost for the economic development website. That is currently funded in this budget, so that would free up those budget dollars for something else. And then the remaining could be used for infrastructure work on the tunnels. We could put this on a budget amendment in FY25, which I plan to bring and introduce to council the second meeting of May. And I believe the approval would take place the second meeting in June. Or we can carry it over into 26 and make a decision then. It's up to you. The second item is the reserve that we had set up for adaptive traffic controls. We've been saving for that for a few years. We ultimately used VDOT reimbursable funds since we had a fund balance there to use for those adaptive traffic controls. I talked to Public Works. There is no plan in the next few years to buy additional controls. They still need to install the ones they have. And so we could repurpose this to another capital project. That can be done in one council meeting since it's already appropriated and in the CIP fund. You can move it from one project to another in one meeting. And then the $50,000 contingency that is in this year's budget. There has been discussion that we could use that to fund some of the new outside agency requests that are unfunded in this budget. That timing does not have to be now. We could appropriate it, or it's already appropriated. We could spend it by the end of the year, or we can carry it over into next year. So I'll pause there to see if there's any discussion on those particular items.
Yeah, my only comment on the appropriating the 50,000 would be in talking to them and allocating those to agencies or agencies who might need that for their end of year projections for following year. I think it'd be good to have those allocated prior to July.
Yeah, they're probably working on their budgets as well.
But again, as Ms. Moyer said, we can discuss that in another meeting. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions?
And just to confirm again with the $720,000 for traffic control, I know it's been in the budget for a while. We've had some changeover streets department. We're sure. I just thought previously that there were some other intended uses for that, but it's just the flashing yellow arrow that's covered by VDOT grants.
All I know is it's adaptive traffic controls and what that entails. I do not know the details of like what the units can do.
Okay.
And again, we can get more details on this before we would make a recommendation to move the funds. So, and this is no rush at all. Just know it's available for other CIP projects unless we do come back to you and maybe there is a plan for this, but we'd have to get more information on that. As far as the Staunton crossing sales, we'd like an idea if you're comfortable with that approach, again, this is not a decision. You will not be deciding this next week when you approve the budget. This would be a decision you would make when Jesse brings the budget amendment back to you all in May and June.
Yeah.
But the website would be moved out of the 26 budget. So, and we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me, especially with the additional background about the website and the additional capabilities and the potential to generate new business for the city. So I think it's an expense that could bear fruit.
And I think doing if we were to fund the Arcadia project, doing it out of the sale makes sense.
Yeah.
Since it's a one-time allocation and doesn't need to be a recurring expense for the budget. It makes sense to me to do it that way.
Okay.
Comments? Okay.
So the next slide is just the general fund transfer that we currently have going into the CIP fund. The West End, the Uniontown, and the library. They're currently funded at 287, 261 each, which was the value of a 2023 1 cent on the real estate tax rate. Therefore, they're for the respective plans in the West End, the Uniontown Neighborhood Action Plan, and then for future improvements to the library. Wiley Wilson, we are awaiting a proposal from them to do a structural analysis. And then after that would come back, we would do the space needs study.
With these reserves, can we, I don't know, do everything we can to start advancing some things regardless of what comes out of the build grant? I mean, we have enough money in there now, especially after the next. I would like to see us starting utility design as soon as possible.
And the utility design would be funded out of the water and sewer fund. So yes, I believe those funds are available. I believe they're in FY '26.
Are they? Okay, I thought
I
they were in
believe so.
27. I thought there was a 1 year.
I
I just
think
thought
we-
this could be something that could accelerate it if,
Oh, we moved
And
I
the
it.
I
water
thought we
fund.
moved them up a
Okay.
fiscal year and I thought they were in '26 now.
Yeah, they already did
Okay.
all the full survey of the area, and I know they were moving forward with the mapping after that, but yeah.
yeah, that's what the
build would be
120,
amazing.
that's
Yeah.
what the 122 has been spent on so far.
Right, yeah,
So,
yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
if we can just keep
Yeah.
that ball rolling
The
regardless of
design
the
of the
outcome.
water and the sewer is funded from the water and sewer fund. The- Yes.
Yeah, it's
Half
in
is in the
20
water and
Yeah, so it's in 26.
Okay. And then for the West End Fund, can we try to get this overall master plan funded from that for what Chestnut Hills could look like in its grand vision?
So we have a conceptual plan funded already from the Brownfields grant that we need to use by the end of this calendar year.
Okay,
Those funds have already been, I think that's $25,000 that were identified from the grant that we need to spend. So we need to spend those grant funds down first.
Okay.
But we can certainly think about other ways to advance that and start to use these dollars other than that. So.
if there's no more discussion on those, we'll move on to the next slide, which is the real estate tax rate. The proposed budget has it set at 91 cents, with 2 cents being dedicated just for infrastructure repairs and improvements. At 91 cents, 657,000 will be put aside for the infrastructure annually. At 90 cents, it would be reduced to half that, so 328,515. And at 89 cents, there would be no annual reserve for infrastructure. I can pause there for discussion or.
This is this is a recurring reserve.
Yes, it would be very similar to like the West End and Uniontown and the library. It is recurring until you decide to change it.
And basically, it can be used for the infrastructure needs. It's like if they come up, anything that comes up, we can use.
The immediate focus would be on the tunnels that run under the wharf, but yes,
Okay,
it can be used for any infrastructure.
And we could also allocate that 720,000 toward
Mhm.
the infrastructure fund as well. And as Ms. Beauregard has pointed out, that's not a recurring, it's a one-time deposit. So we would obviously not have that put into our fund next year unless we were to raise the rate next year.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
The unfortunate thing that we're facing is we just don't know how much it's going to cost. And if
Right.
the one-time money that we can identify and set aside is enough, or if
Right.
we will need some source of funding that could go toward a debt payment, or if it's a smaller difference to make up the cash difference.
I could support that route if this was like our only big ticket item that we know about.
Right.
But the fact that we just had one slide at our joint school board session showing $134 million of unfunded infrastructure needs that we know about. I just don't know. I don't know if a one-time allocation is the smart move for the long run.
I'm also concerned about, I mean, yeah, the immediate one that we don't know the order of magnitude about is of course the wharf and Johnson Street and that, but there's also the North River pipeline, one of our primary sources of water that is beyond its official life on that. And we started to see general estimates on that, and that was in the tens of millions of dollars as well. None of this is cheap.
No.
$41.5 million.
41.4.
Refresh your
Yes,
mind.
thank you. Ugh.
I'm sorry, $41.5 million.
That's
for-
just the placeholder.
Yeah, theoretical.
Theoretical
North
planning
River
estimate for the North
pipeline.
River Tunnel and Pipeline.
I know, it just, yeah, it boggles your mind. But you can't put these things off. We have to do them.
Yeah, and that's when we need it, we'll absolutely need it.
now they have also brought before us 91 cents and now 90 cents. So that is, do we want to go 2 cents or 1 cent or no cents? That's what we.
I would like to, based on citizen feedback, I've been overwhelmed with the number of people who are just, it's really been actually kind of heartwarming, just stepping up. And as much as it pains all of us as like homeowners and stuff like that, and we're sacrificing, but it's like been this return to the collective good that I've been seeing in email replies that people are like, look, we know we need it. It's been put off too long, and people are saying that they approve and endorse the 91 cents because they love Stanton and they want to make sure she's taken care of. So I just think pragmatically, anything less just doesn't make sense at this point. The more money we can save before we get that total on the wharf, I think is money, just well spent.
91 would still keep us in the, 3/4 of cities would be higher than we are.
Oh. And I brought that PDF of the comparison if you would like me to display that. Riley, it's the comparison tax rates.
That's this one.
I think an increase is justified. It's just the rate of increase that concerns me. Having had double-digit increases 2 years ago, and 14% increase built into the assessment alone.
He's got it.
I'm sort of thinking to kind of go halfway at the 90 cent rate. I wanted to hold the line at 89 because our residents have borne the brunt of considerable real estate tax increases. The average, even with a level rate, would have been 12.5% for the last 3 years if we kept the rate level. So that was my concern. But on the other hand, I do want to invest in the city. I want to invest in a way that positions us for the future, that positions us for growth. So we need to make those investments wisely. And I think spreading out the increase. So I'm leaning toward 90.
I'm gonna say that I'm probably leaning more toward 90, a compromise. And I'm saying that only because I know we have that, again, 720, it's once, one time, but I also am aware that if we needed to go to 91 next year, we have that option. We have the option of looking at other avenues to generate funds for next year.
It's true. We could find other sources of funds for this kind of repair. Or that as well. Absolutely.
Sorry, what did you say, Mr. Arrowood? What would you
I could support 90 as well, or 91, either way. I mean, it's,
It's gonna come down to
yeah,
next
it's
week.
gonna,
It's gonna come down to next week.
oh, you're
isn't
wait,
it?
you're trying to check the fourth
We're gonna
box,
have
aren't you?
to-
Okay, yeah, I
Sort
understand.
of trying to come to, I mean, there's 6 of you here, so we could have a perfect
I know.
tie.
it's late.
Yeah. 89 is the lowest that number has ever been in our,
History?
I think so. I mean, well, that was looking
Well,
back
a long
40
time,
years
a long-
was
yeah.
as far back as I could find, you know,
Also
on that.
Historic high home.
It's true, but sometime, yeah, sometime around the 07 to 09 period, like houses went beyond the value of lumber and labor. So we're trying to walk the line there. Now, looking at our comparables on here in other cities, which is always a good guide
Yeah.
that keeps us very affordable compared to the bulk of cities in the state of Virginia.
You know, it is, it's hard to believe that, you know, for some people, you know, folks who are struggling and you say, but you know, we're so affordable. You know, it's hard to say that to somebody who's, you know, who is struggling
know
and
it,
every, you know, every bit of an increase in their monthly expenses. And so affordable is a very squishy word. But the city is unaffordable and we are responsible for paying for it. And we're responsible for finding where the money comes from, and the money comes from us. The money we get, you know, some from the state, we may not get any from the federal government. And so it comes from us. It comes from our for the most part, our real estate tax.
I feel like, especially given the current political instability, we're our own heroes. We have to, you know, be there for ourselves. And I'm hoping at 91 cents, I mean, I'm guessing you'll get into it, that some of the things that we've talked about, like providing more for the police department might be included and stuff like that. So I would just like to see our people taken care of in the infrastructure, because we can't pretend, we know this is going to be millions and millions of dollars. So
Yeah.
we either, you know, start saving now and have more Jesse, I don't know how it works. Like, I'm just equating it to personal budgets. But like, and we'll have more to offset the debt that we would accrue. Is that right?
It depends on ultimately how much it costs. We could identify the cash, like the crossing sale, the money that we have in the adaptive traffic reserve. If it's 3 million, this would get us there and we could pay cash for it. If it's something bigger than that and we would have to take out debt, then the money that we would use that toward debt service payments. So it ultimately depends on how much it's gonna end up costing.
Seems
But-
like it would save the taxpayers either way. The more we save now, it will pay off later.
And it also improves flexibility, just having this built up. If a grant does come along, that's a matching grant, then we have the money to immediately take action instead of the unknowns of if we can actually pull it off, if something becomes available.
It would put us, in a better position for that. That's a good point.
But I want to reiterate, I mean, I think this is a huge investment for the city. It's
Mhm.
for our citizens. It's part of a catch-up, as you can see. I mean, we are in the lower quartile for taxes, but middle for, household incomes. So this is catch-up, but we have to show results for it. I just want to keep reiterating that we need to start showing the public what their money is going to. I just want to see us more aggressive on sidewalk infrastructure, especially. I know we're already increasing in the budget, the annual reserve, but even if Some projects are identified that need more money. I mean, this infrastructure pot, I feel like could be an alternative to pull some extra from that for sidewalks if, you know, if the scope and fee need it.
I mean, yeah, I think none of us have any interest in raising taxes just because we can, but only because we need to.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, the need is clear.
Yeah,
I mean, the need
absolutely.
is clear.
what do you want?
You know, if it were to go to 91 and if we were to continue to, on this trend, every year, every 2 years, I would like to be mindful of, maybe increasing support to organizations that do meet the needs of our most vulnerable populations, folks who are at risk of losing their rental property or at risk of being unable to pay their mortgage or unable to feed themselves. Just, being aware that it does, I think, impact our population unevenly, and that we need to be aware of the needs of those organizations and not let them close their doors. And they are, many of them, at risk of closing their doors. So I don't want to be part of that happening. Yeah.
Having just, we had our CAPSA board meeting last night. And a lot of these organizations are getting zeroed out. Like right now, they know that they're zeroed out, losing their federal funding, which is another reason why again, I am so compassionate, and also I don't want to just raise taxes willy-nilly, but given all the data and stuff like that, it just, if we do the 91, we have maybe some to be able to help more people as well. Like,
And I think everybody on this dais is mindful of that and agrees with that, I would say. You brought up the topic of police, and I think some of us wanted to explore that.
Can I go into the next slide?
Oh,
then?
I'm sorry.
And then we
Yeah,
will
I
talk
thought
about
we were
that.
finished. Sorry.
So as you know, there's about $1.5 million of unfunded requests related to salaries and benefits and about $2.5 million of equipment and other requests. So we talked with our Commissioner of Revenue, and between the money that we would save on the website by moving it to be funded with the crossing sale, we thought that we could increase the revenue projections for business license revenue and personal property tax revenue based on kind of what we're seeing as receipts throughout the spring, now that we're a little further into FY '25. And so that would give us an additional 225,580 that you could decide what you would like to do with that. We don't feel comfortable going any past this, but 225,580 is what you could work with.
So what percentage is that 145 for the increase with property? Where we going with
It's
that?
not a tax, it's not the rate, it's just the revenue
Oh, no.
projection.
Okay, that's the revenue, oh,
Not, no
projection.
rates are changing, it's
Yeah,
just that,
it's based
Okay.
on predicted like car values and
Yeah.
additional,
yeah, we spoke to Ms. Reagan and she was comfortable with these changes.
So that's 225,000 that we can utilize. That's what you're saying?
Mhm.
One time
No?
No, it's
ongoing.
reoccurring.
reoccurring?
Yeah.
But it is again based on projections, so because it's not based on rate, I
So it
mean,
might
things,
go up,
things
it
go
might
up
go
and down.
down.
So for instance, personal property tax can fluctuate depending on the price of vehicles and equipment and things like that, so.
Yeah, so for instance, personal property taxes, the actual revenues last year were 7.2 million. But our budget is about 6.9 million. So you're saying we were a little bit conservative there, and you feel
Mhm.
kind of,
No, we don't want to
We could
build a
budget.
budget going all the way up to the 7.2, because if we
Right.
don't make those projections, we have expenses built on that.
right?
And we don't want to have to all of a sudden figure out how to pay for those if we don't make the projections.
Right.
But we feel like going up a little over 7 million is still conservative enough that we're not going to push our limits too much there.
Likewise with business and occupational licenses, we got
Yes.
3.1 million in last year. Budget only 2,750,000. So we can
Yeah, we're
bump
pushing that one up too,
Yeah.
but still being a little bit conservative there.
Right.
We feel like there's no room to move on sales tax and lodging tax. And no room to move further past what we've already proposed for meals. So those we felt like we could not touch, but we did have a little bit of room to work and still be a little conservative in business license and personal property.
Assuming the economy doesn't crash.
Yes.
So we were looking at using this recurring revenue for something that all of us might support. That I think is strongly needed. And I think several of us brought up the, if you can explain it for us, Ms. Moyers, it's a training and merit program for the police force for members
Yes,
of the
this would
force.
not allow them to do their full proposal, but it would allow them to do what they call like phase one of the proposal, knowing that phase two is not guaranteed in FY '27.
Okay, the full ask for that was
383.
Okay. Okay, I thought it was an all or none.
Career development plan.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Since the
Career
chief's-
development
yeah,
plan.
would Chief Williams be able to explain this a little bit better for us? He's right in the back of the room.
Included in that, I'm wondering what Councilman Arwed mentions as well. If we went halfway and to the 383, better than halfway, could we actually start doing any part of the plan or the program and with that
Or, yeah,
partial, with the 2/3 funding?
Sure. So just to thank Madam Mayor, members of council, thanks for giving me a couple minutes. So what we're facing is kind of unprecedented, just to kind of get you caught up. We're authorized 54 sworn officers. We're currently down 6. We average about 5 people leaving a year through retirements or resignations. And so what has happened over the last couple of years is the applicant pool has just shrunk so much. And of course, as you know, or maybe you don't know, it takes almost 12 months to train a police officer. So when we get down too much more, if we get down 8 or 10, then I'm going to be in the city manager's office talking about what services we're going to cut. You know, we pull school resource officers, do we not answer certain types of calls, and all these things that we don't want to do. So we're just in this kind of precarious position. So retention is huge. And so what other localities who we're competing directly with have done is like a career development step program. And so you can be at a neighboring jurisdiction, you can be a police officer with 3-year service, and you can be earning 15,000 more than in Staunton. So that keeps us from recruiting those folks. We've actually had applicants from neighboring jurisdictions that came in, but then when they met with me and realized that they were not going to make what they're making, then they're staying where they are. So the recruitment piece is bad, but then as it speaks to retention, it may be a matter of time until we start losing some of our folks to neighboring jurisdictions. And I don't need to remind you that we've got the best police department in the area, one of the top in the United States. I would put our officers up against our entire police department. We're the only internationally accredited police agency. No one else is in the area, and we built an incredible culture, but we just need to increase some of the pay for our officers to keep them there. A few years ago, we were struggling with our 911 dispatchers, and the city manager was able to find some money, and we were able to keep them because we only have 12 dispatchers, and we were getting ready to go down to like 6, which we thought we were going to have to shut the doors or turn the key and let Augusta County do it. So I've never seen it. This is my 41st year at the police department, 22 as chief. And I don't want to like ring the alarm bells, but I'm close to ringing the alarm bells. And so this is something that we believe wholeheartedly in, and it's really important. And I know they did something. So what it does essentially is this program is it pays you for your time and service and your, more importantly, like the trainings that you have. We did this the city did this for the fire department a number of years ago. So if you're at a certain level, then you know you're going to get this amount of pay or whatever. So that's what we're trying to do for our officers. And I'm sorry, Mr. Robles, did that answer your question? It probably didn't. You had something specific.
Is about the
So what
fundraising.
sort of, could you implement any of that?
Yes,
With 2/3 of
yes.
the money that you asked for?
Yes, we can phase it in. I mean, it won't be as good, obviously, but it's certainly, getting us 2/3 of the way is better than, I'm certainly not gonna say it's all or nothing because I don't think it is. I think we can phase it in and make it work and hope that we can get where we need to be, next year.
Questions for Chief Williams?
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
the
That was helpful.
explanation. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
basically
Appreciate it.
it's attract and retain highly qualified officers for our force. Yeah. Sounds.
Were there any competing?
Well, the question I asked the city manager, is this the most pressing personnel need that we have in the city? And we, as part of the budget presentation, we didn't really get a comprehensive view of what are the personnel needs across the city, across all the departments. So I appreciate that this is legitimate and needed, but in context, what else should we know? Maybe we're not
That's a
prepared
good
to have that.
question. Yeah, I think when we talked on the phone earlier, it might be time to do another comp study to kind of see where we are, especially with whatever Waynesboro lands at with their pay plan, since they're trying to do a pretty large adjustment. I don't know if they'll get all the way there, but we'll definitely need to look at that when their budget is finished. So it might be worth doing another pay study to look at our employees again, obviously to see how public safety is doing, because just like police, fire's competing as well. So we probably have to go through that exercise again before the next budget, honestly. So we'll have to figure out how we're going to do that. Yeah, it hasn't been getting any easier to recruit and retain, certainly. We're competing no longer with just local governments, but with private sector, and it's very difficult. So don't know if I can answer your question, but we definitely need to study it again as we go into the 27 budget and see where we are compared to the region.
As part of that, I'm thinking, what are there additional positions or additional pay for positions that could help bring more business into the city so that we build up our tax base and we're not faced with these excruciating decisions, or as many of them in the future, about how to pay for things?
Are you talking about Economic Development Department or?
Right, or community services, people to permitting and maybe expedite that process.
Yeah. So I wasn't really trying to answer that one either when we spoke earlier, but again, I think it's something to look at, certainly. Again, it's going to be about what can we afford to do? What would be the benefit of that as far as, the money that we would spend doing that, just adding people. But just another thing to look at.
So we're talking about the police department at 225.
That would cover phase one.
And then each year after that, it would be the three.
Well, it's going to be more than that in 27. And that's why
Right.
we're saying that it's going to have to be measured against other requests, other employee salary needs. So we just can't guarantee what's going to be in 27 necessarily. But that's any year. We don't know each year if we're going to give a COLA. So it's all has to be measured with something else.
Once we commit, it's a permanent addition to the bottom line, obviously.
Unless
recurring
it's
operating
taken out,
expense.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't want to get to the point where we do not have a police force, a viable police force. And dispatchers. It's a very, very hard job to answer those phones, talking to people who are going through an emergency and having to talk through that with people. And we have to remember that's a very challenging job for people's mental health, their physical health, challenging on their families. And they need to be compensated for that.
Yeah, I 100% am for this to be moved to
Yeah.
phase one of the police. Just as a citizen and being on city council, I think this is one of our most basic first things is making sure our city is safe. And the fact that there are already 6 officers down. I just, and we have such a good force. And as I've shared with all you guys, being a former military police officer and working with so many police officers around the state of Virginia, it's just really important that we keep our good here, because we don't want to become the place that people who are in this profession just end up because they can't get hired anywhere else. Like that, we are not that kind of city, and we want to make sure our
No.
people are taken care of, especially again with everything, all the unknowns and stuff. I mean, I do think, maybe in the future when things level out, like definitely keep looking at EDA and what more can we get to bring businesses here. But for right now, in these times, I think it's critical that we support the police department.
No, absolutely. One thing that you have in front of us that I don't know if you have this one, I do have a question about this one.
Kylie does that. Yes, he has that.
Okay, and in this comparison, my question is that what rate does that have us at?
This is
For
current
real
rates,
estate.
so it's the 89
So
cents.
this is at 89, okay.
So to go up each penny, you would move your decimal place 4 places to the left. So it'd be $25 per year for each penny increased on the real estate taxes on a $251,000 house.
Dollars,
So for 2 pennies, it would be like $50 a year.
So like 4140.
Yes.
It's also worth
cost.
noting that all these are calculated on our median home.
Yes.
assessment.
Our media,
Yes,
yeah,
that is
find a,
correct.
find a, find a $250,000
Waynesboro is
house in
about
Charlottesville.
the
Yeah.
same as us this year.
Yeah, they're,
Harrisonburg is
in there.
higher, I believe.
yeah,
This was definitely higher.
Charlottesville. I
This was
don't know
kind of
what
keeping
you'd
the
be paying for that,
values
yeah.
the same.
Okay.
And the
that-
personal
yeah.
property that is just a made up number. That's not what our median personal property is. Just a made up number for comparison purposes.
Right.
Yeah, for this one, it was just, give us 2 used cars on that. And that's Waynesboro 0.77.
Yes, it is. And it does not include any of the utility fee increases for any of those localities. That is their current utility rates.
Right.
All right. Any more questions?
Question.
Go ahead. You want to summarize all of this? So
don't
Leslie, you want
know.
to summarize all of this?
So, okay, I'm gonna ask the easy question first. Is there general support for the 225 to go towards the police career development plan? Do I hear that that's something you all would like to do with those additional revenues? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, I see foreheads nodding. The tax rate. I'm not really sure what I heard. I heard a couple of 91s, a couple of 90.
You gotta call Blake.
What?
You gotta call Blake.
I know, right?
I did not even know he
Where
was
is
not gonna be here this evening. I'm gonna stop, but I'll make a suggestion in a minute that I'm almost afraid to make, so I'm just gonna.
Just looking at it, I mean, you make a good point. I always like to, as I, had done before, is look at this at what is the median home price and what is the average Stantonian going to be paying in an increase? If it were to go to 91, and I believe I'm gonna say
$30
$30
a month.
a month increase.
So the assessment is $26 of that about, and the
Right.
2 cents is $4.
A month.
For
increase, yeah.
251, for a median, yes, for the median valued home.
So either 30 or 34. Or
Well, it's
30,
30, including
30.
the assessment and the
Right.
tax rate increase.
Right. So that was a number that's been stuck in my head, and I just, it's like, that's what we have to. Would anyone like to Is this what you would like to know first? Well, first we did the 225 for the police. And the next thing you wanted to know
This is really
was-
the only other decision to be made at this point. And if there is a tie tonight, well, I'm not going to say that yet. Let me just stop for a minute. If there's any more discussion about it. I know who I haven't
Compromise.
heard
For
from
me,
yet.
it's compromise. I mean, you don't do 89, you move it to 91. This year,
What did you say?
90.
90. All right, can I go down the line? So Mr. Campbell, 91.
I'm still 91. I mean,
Right.
if that's what council goes with, I just want to, we've gotten to this kind of this precedent for the past couple of years of considering real estate tax it's just,
Yeah.
if we go 90, I just think there's a higher chance we might have to revisit it next year instead of waiting 2 years.
Absolutely.
And I know that you, Ms. Park, you're also 91. I heard Mr. Overholter say 90, but I'm not sure where the mayor and vice mayor stand. And Ms. Woods,
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
90.
you know, I really wanted to keep it as, you know, where it was. And throughout this budget process, hearing about the overwhelming needs of the city, infrastructure, human resources, schools, just everything. I know an increase is necessary. 90 or 91 is necessary. I agree that if we went to 90 this year, we would probably have to go to 91 next year. I had thought 90 because of the 720 that we were able to put into, again, a one-time one-time fund into the infrastructure, putting it into an infrastructure reserve. But again, is that just pushing off the needs of the city, which are immense?
So who's to say, because we come up to these things now that we see that things happen. So who's to say we go 91 and then next year we have to revisit again because we need to.
Yeah, it may happen. Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
It's every 2 years, just when it started in 2023. But before then, it wasn't anything. It was stayed at 93 when we first got on council. It was at 93. The assessments went up so high that we had to bring it down to help from 93. Was it 93?
92 or 93.
92, 93. Yeah, and that was low. I mean,
And-
historically, it's been as high as $1.05.
Actually, $1.10 in 1990.
Oh, $1.10. Okay. Wow.
In
But how's this work?
2020, it was 95 cents. And then then it was dropped to 92, and then 89. So when I came to the city in 2019, it was at 95.
The highest percentage jump of real estate values was 07 to 09.
Uh,
That was something like 40%.
32.9%.
Right. And they went from 97 to 92. Is that right?
They went from 96 to 90. Actually,
then-
they stayed at 90. It looks like. It was 96 in 2005, and then it went to 90.
Crept back up
Yeah.
after
And
that.
then it started to creep back up. Yeah. Then it went up 5 cents I think this was for the high school.
They went up 5 cents at once.
No, it did. It did go up 5 cents at once, and I
Oh.
don't know why. But I know a
Well,
few
thank
years
you.
later, it went up 2 cents for the high school. But it did go up 5 cents for 1 year, and then it stayed at 95 for several years.
But that's just the tax rate.
That's just the tax rate.
That's just the
Yeah,
tax
and the
rate.
Oh, yeah,
assessments
and I
were
don't
not,
know
the
what-
assessments during that time had a period where they weren't moving much at
No.
all
Yeah.
during
Yeah,
this
they were
period. They
very
were
flat,
very, very
yeah.
stagnant,
So you
so.
could fluctuate. I mean,
so-
back then, yeah. But
Well,
we're
that-
in another time where the assessments.
I mean,
That's
that's what
going up
that's what I
tremendously.
pointed out last meeting, it's just if you look at our real estate, overall real estate tax value increase, I mean, it is substantial and
Yeah.
that's not sustainable. But
Right.
again, we're playing catch up for not doing what we need to do.
Kinds of things. Yeah, there's been all kinds of things put off. I mean, the wharf is another example of that. I mean, it has not been,
If we went to 91, would we have support for 91? If we stay at 90, do we have for support for 90? And having Blake not here is not helpful.
well, you and
Um,
I can decide that
right.
right now.
So we have 2 at 91 and 2 at 90. Is everybody stuck where they are?
I just don't want to
Um,
kick the can.
No,
think
I
we need
hear
to
you.
take
Absolutely. Corey, I
responsibility.
respect
Yeah.
that 100%.
Yeah.
So wait, you
Absolutely.
said 2 and 2, but who's missing?
Cheers.
Those
The two of
two.
them.
We-
Oh.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
91.
Oh, you
we
said-
haven't said-
I'm sorry, you two are.
Yeah.
I think
So we have
so we have
91,
290,
90, and
291.
91.
Always call a friend and hit play.
Yeah, I could go, I could go 91. As I said, being very aware that many people will have a difficult time with that. Many people will be, as I've had emails saying, glad to pay that and feel comfortable paying, an enormous, increase. But for those who are struggling and have emailed and said, this is really gonna hurt my family, we need to be mindful again of the resources that need to be funded for those people. I agree that the needs are there and that our real estate tax is our largest revenue stream, and it's our responsibility to fund the government. So I just have that caveat that we need to fund those resources for folks who need them.
It's true. We did just vote to increase the assistance for that.
For seniors, yeah.
Yes, for seniors and
And
that,
people with
which will be
100%
helpful, but
disability.
Seniors, veterans, disabled. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. The third party on there. 91 would still put us compared to our other cities in the bottom quartile in there, keeping Stanton affordable compared to everywhere else. And again, by that comparison, we see Waynesboro 0.77, yet it's still more expensive overall on that. So I would, yeah, their proposal is currently 89, which would put
Yeah.
them beyond, way beyond us with everything else. I would way rather do this than personal property tax. I think that more directly hits the people that cannot afford it. But I would support 91.
There you have it.
We'll build an ordinance with 91 and would you all, so let me ask this, we could have a work session next week too, if you all think that's necessary to have a work session during the work session. Otherwise, this would be on the regular agenda at the end for approval, for action.
And it would be a simple vote,
It would just be correct. Yeah.
unless you're,
It'd just be a vote. Yeah. It's at the end because we have other public hearings first, so it's at the end.
we have time. So
I
if
don't
you guys
need
want to keep
another.
talking, we don't need to end. No. No, I think we're
No,
set.
no work
yeah.
session. Okay. All right. so
Just for context,
Sure.
Yeah.
while we're talking about the burden on the taxpayer, we already, I wasn't on council, but I think it's anticipated and expected that we would have significant utility fee increases next year. And talking about the need for catch-up, but we sort of neglected that for maybe 10 years, that there were no increases, no changes at all. So there
Or
was a
14,
significant
yeah.
increase
Long
last
time.
year. No increase this year, but we anticipate making changes next year in order to continue to catch up because of not having increased it to keep up with expenses over time. Is that right?
Probably. I mean, it wasn't, we were, I think, the second lowest utilities, second lowest were in water of all the cities in Virginia. And it had been a good 14 or 15 years
On
where
the stormwater and the sewer.
stormwater and sewer,
Water
sorry.
and refuse was a little more recent. The funds that are really struggling are the sewer fund. For
Didn't meet
one.
costs.
And then the environmental fund, mainly due to the capital, the landfill. We just opened
Right.
phase 5 and phase
Yeah.
6 is on the schedule for FY 29. There's a $6.6 million project to move the scale house and the break room and the admin offices at the landfill. Broken up between 27 and 26 and FY 27. So we are going to look at tipping fees to try to help ease some of that increase that gets passed along to our citizens next year. So we have a landfill meeting next Thursday where we're going to talk about that. There are some area landfills that are significantly increasing their tipping fees, and I have a suspicion it has to do with the enormous amount of capital cost that goes into running a landfill. So we want to revisit those tipping fees to make sure that that burden is not passed on to our citizens.
That, the new scale project, that's to separate commercial and real estate, residential landfill traffic.
And to ensure that commercial comes through the scales again. They're supposed to go through them again when they leave, but they don't often do that. So yeah, they'll be up the road, like past the brush portion where you drop off your yard waste. So
It's
yeah,
also to make sure that traffic doesn't back up onto
Yeah,
Cooks Creek
they
because it's
can-
a violation.
you can get in
and-
trouble for that. It
I need
should,
to-
it
I-
should
can-
help.
I need to go out there when it's peak hour because I just have a hard time believing that that backs up all the way.
I've
to
seen
the-
it.
I
I've
have
been out there.
pictures.
I've been out there. Yeah.
They
when
provided
it's-
us with
it
pictures and
happens.
evidence. and-
And it should help with kind of just better, the landfill should run a lot smoother and actually it could help with the revenue side too, because then we'll really be able to kind of see what commercials going in and out and actually be able to, weigh them, understand better what's going in and out of the landfill. So, and get more accurate cost. But it's expensive. So,
I can really see the potential for initiatives just to reduce the amount that we're sending
Yeah.
to the landfill, so we
Yeah.
can reduce our costs there. One possibility as we raise fees for customers for trash pickup, we have 2 different size cans now. We can increase more for people with the larger cans and people smaller cans to start to incentivize people to send less to the landfill.
Also, just curious if you increase the tipping fees to a point where it's no longer attractive for the commercial, I mean, do we even need the commercial scales if you can offset it that way? I would just like to see a cost benefit analysis of what the expected increase in revenue is and how long that would offset, because that's a major investment for a second set of scales.
It
It was
is.
like 6,
Those, yeah, giant.
it was a lot. I don't remember what it was also.
The fear at the landfill is that we're going to start receiving waste from outside of the area because compared to the Rockingham County landfill, will be about maybe half of what they're going to charge for their tipping fees. And then the landfill to the south of us is about $10.50 per ton higher or lower. No, we are lower, sorry. So
Oh, yes. we
they're
have
afraid that's
change
going to
that.
drive more refuse to our landfill, which fills up cells faster and
Yeah, so just offset the cost with higher fees.
Yeah, we need to keep our eye on that. All right. Any other questions that you have for us or questions we have for staff?
have our charge and the packet that'll go out tomorrow, excuse me, will have the 91 cents plus the 225.
All righty. Hold your peace. This meeting is now adjourned.